Hey everybody, this is Dr. Flight. I hope you're doing great today. This is just a short overview of competitor analysis. This module looks at the relationship that competitors have with each other and the assessment of that relationship, who your competitors are, and and what you can the type of analysis that you want to engage in. And basically, when we look at market-based strategy, we're looking at three things that are really fundamental in understanding your strategic positioning. One would be your company yourself, your strengths, your weaknesses, your competitive advantages, your positioning, your branding, who you are as a company. We also integrate into that or alongside that the market, which would be the consumers who you're bringing your products to, and who's ultimately using the value that you're creating and that you're capable of creating. But third, and equally important to those two, is the competitive landscape. In other words, what other um, offers are in the marketplace that a consumer could choose that they might choose instead of your offer. And so competition can come from a lot of different places. A standard model that has been used in management a lot, it comes from Michael Porter, and it's called the Porter's Five Forces model, which is introduced earlier in the term or in another module. And it looks at direct competitors, substitutes, new and emerging competitors, but then it also has a strong focus on the structure of an industry where you have pressure from suppliers and upstream components, which would label supplier power in that model. And then there's also pressure that comes from downstream intermediaries, wholesalers, retailers, consumers, and such, which is called buyers' power. And again, those two are a little different because they really focus on the structure, the power dynamics of the entire chain. So you could actually integrate those and think of those as distribution components when you're looking at the model. I know people will throw Five Forces model in as, this who is my competition, and only three of those components of the five are really who we technically call competitors or potential competitors. They're threats, no doubt, but then the other two deal with kind of the structure of the model. So a couple of the readings, big chains put a lock on first run movies, and Pabst Blue Ribbon, the couple readings that are there, those two deal specifically with this interplay between competitors that interfere with or manipulate power structure across the chain at different stages. And so it's a real interesting dynamic to think about. While you have competitors, you may work with competitors to form a joint venture, and in the PBR case, it certainly happens where Pabst Blue Ribbon and Molson Coors or Miller Coors, they find a relationship that works for a while, anyways. And then in the big chains put a lock on first run movies. That story is a super interesting, again, power dynamic within an industry where competitors kind of face each other. So I think you're going to find those real interesting reads. The Ford hires a new CMO away from Toyota. Again, is a competitive positioning type of a paper. A short one then, and the Hellman's is an interesting one too. So a lot of interesting readings that support this idea of evaluating competition. There is a model involved where we look at competitors and we look specifically at what you want to, and if you're going to do a profile for a customer, You can also do a profile for your competitors, and this is super wise to do when you start to think about what your competitors' future actions are going to be, where their strengths, their weaknesses are, where their competitive advantages are, what their distinctive capabilities are. Like we want to do all of that research as well. We're doing it for ourselves, but we're also doing it on our competitors too. So again, this chapter, or this material in this module is really focused on understanding the options your customers have other than yourselves when solving a problem, and being able to discern what that might look like. A good overview, a good summary chapter is Supplemental Reading by Lehman and Weiner. It's a book chapter, but again, it's good supplemental reading to give you another good overview of what you look at specifically when you go to investigate and research a competitor. I find that chapter is really, really helpful just in being able to understand what's going on, in their world. And then finally, as you wrap up this module, think about these questions. Be able to discuss the relationship market share concentration has with industry structure. So when we talk about concentration of market share, that's how we typically define industries as monopolies, oligopolies, pure competition, and that type of typology. When there's a strong concentration of share among just a few companies, that would be closer to a monopoly on that spectrum. If market share is dispersed very evenly across many companies, the concentration would be lower of market share among those few, and that would suggest a more competitive environment in the sense of pure competition, again, on that type of spectrum. So kind of thinking about how we assess industries and our competitive pressures often begins there. Porter's Five Forces model, again, that's a good model. You're probably familiar with it if you've had a management class. They use this model quite a bit, and it's a good one to gain some insights towards, and something along those lines. And then being able to analyze competitors and create a competitor profile, and what you would look at when you're looking at competitors, what you would assess of them that would help you, again, better understand who they are, what they are, how they operate, how they're going to operate in the future. Helps you become really a good sound, puts you in a good sound position in the industry. Okay, so again, this module is all about competition, understanding, identifying who they are, why they're a threat, where their threats come from. You can also identify competitors who you might partner with, as PBR did in that article. And in essence, the relationship you're going to form with your competitors, and what you can think about in terms of leveraging their strengths and their weaknesses to your advantage. So, all right, have fun reading this, getting to know all about your competitors. There's a good amount here, but it's all good stuff to have. So let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.